Discover how smarter project insights can lead to better project outcomes.
Hello, project people. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Project Chatter podcast. It's always great to have you with us. If you haven't already done so, you should hit that subscribe button or follow us on your favorite podcast player or YouTube if you prefer to watch our friendly faces, and leave us a rating or comment, because while you're there, you might as well do something. Mr. Dale, how are you, sir? You're looking very dapper today.
Thank you. Yeah, a late one today from work, so didn't have time to, put on the Project Chatter merchandise that all our listeners should be going and grabbing, because all of those profits to go to charity. So just a shout out. We don't do it often, but yeah, folks, if you're looking for something good to do, go ahead, buy yourself some merch from us, and all the proceeds there go to charity. And it's pretty cool. It's got Project Chatter logo stuff on, but yeah, well, excited for this podcast. And yeah, I think if listeners could give us a rating each, they'd probably rate me higher than you, I think. I'm gonna lay that down. What do you think?
I don't care, but you're super smooth about it, and I'd give you a vote for sure.
Thank you.
It's great to be. It's great to see you again. Look, and this is your side gig, so I appreciate you coming on every week, Dale. And look, let's get to the guest today, the special VIP, Dr. Harris Apostolopolos. Hopefully I got that right. How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you. Many thanks for the invitation, Val and Dale. I hope that all participants will gain some useful insights out of our discussion.
Even if they don't, Harris, we will. And that's what matters, right, Dale? So look, we'd love to delve into this conversation around transformation and PMO and PM, because I know a lot of people get, confused about what the differences are. And we always want to talk about digital, so don't worry, we will touch on that. But Harris, how did this all start with you? How did you get into this world of project management and PMO and digital transformation? Where were you when this all went down?
Well, I'm going back to the dinosaur years after the university. My mentality is always to research and try to learn things. And I was working in a Chinese company that there was a lot of things changing rapidly. So I wanted to learn more and more. And I was working as a product manager at the time. And I was handling a lot of customers and projects. So I thought that I should dig more in the profession, and then I started to research about certifications and ways to do my work much better. So I got thrilled about, like, a passion for me, and I got into the business more and more, and then I got some certifications in project management. I had some achievements in the project management field. So I do like it a lot. And then step by step, I had more and more certifications in change management, risk management, conflict management, you name it. And then step by step, after gaining more international experience and after hundreds or even thousands of projects, I moved to more complex projects, and then to the PMO world, which is more fascinating according to my views.
I love that. It was very succinct. And what is it that you like about PMO so much?
Mostly I like interacting with people. I like complexity. I like achieving difficult things that people believe that is almost impossible to be done. And sometimes I like failure, because I learn, in a sense that going back to my career, I would say that I have more scars than success, but this is what made me right now, and being in this position and discussing with you. And what I like most, I would say, is that I treat the world of PM and PMO as a passion, not as a profession. So I like what I'm doing. I like, for example, sharing knowledge, giving back to the community of professionals, broadening the horizons of my team, and achieving more and more difficult tasks and progressing in the role of PM and PMOs.
That's so good. You mentioned a few things that Dale and I also care about, passion, people, And I think a lot of people who are in PMO, it's exactly the same thing. I want to unpack a few things as we go, and it's not a podcast without a few distinctions and definitions. Every time we have these podcasts, I always get a baseline understanding of what we're actually talking about, because for me, I mess up a lot and misinterpret particular areas of project management, and I've had many debates on this podcast about it. What's your definition of transformation? Because I've seen this been used in positive ways and in negative ways. And the follow-up question would be, do you think transformation is something that PMOs should do, or is it something separate?
Well, transformative approaches by default are really complex, and there are a lot of definitions of what a transformation is. In principle, you get A, and you try to move to B, C, or D through a complex ecosystem with a lot of diversity, a lot of risks, a lot of changes that are required. So transformation metamorphosis is another, perhaps, word that you have used this from the Greek, metamorphosis. And I use it a lot as well. Is actually a journey trying to accomplish status A to status B. For example, you change your hair, you can change your car, you can change your clothes, but you cannot use the same word for transformation, because transformation is much, much wider. You use, I would say, the past for lessons learned and the present to gain insights, and you move to a new version of what you know when you create the future. That's why complexity comes out of that. It's not easy, and the people that engage in transformations, they know what I mean about. And as I said, there's a lot of hats that someone who is engaged with transformation should wear. Should know a bit of change management, a bit of risk management, conflict management, of course, project, program, or portfolio management strategy. It's not easy. Now, to your second question regarding the PMOs in transformation, this is a very, very specific area, because the transformation PMO differs a lot than a traditional PMO. It's much, much harder to accomplish the results, because it's not only KPIs, stakeholders, owners, deliverables, it's much, much more, especially when we're discussing at the strategic level that you take into account the vision and the mission. Now, as well, the PMO should have its own mission and vision statement. Sometimes it's more or less the same with the corporate one, sometimes it's totally different, but the complexity in transformation is much, much higher. Sharing my experiences with you, for transformation approaches to have a sort of result, it requires time. It's not easy. So it may take a couple of years or more. In the same sense, there's a lot of failure, because many things change to the transformation journey. A lot of things can happen. There are, as I said, a lot of complexities. There's a lot of integration, for example, in the verticals of a company. So it's not that easy. However, as we discussed in the beginning, is a passion for me. I like a lot of being engaged in a lot of transformation PMOs. It's a very specific area that I enjoy working on, and I like delivering results with my team. And when we discuss about transformations in the industry, we discuss about mainly programs. So by saying the word of program, it comes to the mind of most of the people that hear us now, benefits. But a more complex approach in transformation, of course, it discusses a lot about strategy. So we discuss about a project portfolio. So to understand the complexity when we discuss about project portfolios. Board members are engaged, more people that should have the capacity and capability. Almost all verticals of an organization, because it touches the whole company, not just a few departments of a company. PMOs in such kind of interaction are more powerful, I would say. They have higher authority. It's not only a supportive role, but a more like a leading role of the PMO that we need. PMO started as a misconception many years ago, and I've seen it a lot in my career. Most of the companies, they build PMOs in the beginning as a supportive role, but as the time passes by and they do deliver the results, it's getting more and more a leadership role.
Yeah. No, I'm going to unpack that a little bit more, because you put a lot in there, and maybe it's more direct around, just from what you've said there, for the listeners around what the difference is between change management and transformation. You know, I see transformation, it might have been Eddie Bank or someone else, Dale, who talked about the caterpillar and the butterfly. For me, that's a massive transformation. The modus operandi has changed, the complete outcome has changed, the products changed, the services changed. What's the difference between transformation, let's say change management, or continuous improvement? Because what I feel like, I've been on some projects and what they call transformation is really just an improvement of the existing structure. They're not necessarily transforming anything. And I just wanted to get to you. Is there something more specific around transformation that can give listeners clarity?
This is a great question, Val. From my career, I've seen that a lot of stakeholders do mix these things, and in most of the cases, they believe that they speak about the same thing. But transformation and change is not the same, and actually transformation includes changes. Just to give an example, changes are shorter in duration, transformation approaches do take longer. In the same sense, risks in the transformation approach are more complex, and we're discussing in the industry as we name them systemic risks, that they affect a lot of other smaller risks, and there's a domino of actions that are required in order to prevent them or mitigate them. So in a sense, the risks are in a smaller scale. The transformation approach, you're discussing about something new, something that starts with a vision of the future, is a new image of the future. And a change is, I would say, not static, it's dynamic as well, but it doesn't include the whole pack, like, for example, stakeholders, board of directors, KPIs, OKRs, you name it. And in transformation approaches, there are a lot more projects than change. That's why we discussed before that you can change your hair, you can change your car, you can change your style. But when we discuss about transformation, is a whole new image, for example, of yourself. So it takes much, much more time, and it's much more complexities are engaged. So to recap, it's not the same, it's something different, and people should not be using the same notation for change and transformation.
So I'm gathering my feedback, I think, in my head, and saying, well, then transformation is a novel event, which is aligned to a vision, which is different to, let's say, change management, which is effectively assimilating people, right, to a change in business as usual. It's not necessarily the same thing, and I always find that difficult, because ultimately benefits, project management, change management, PMO, all eventually line up to some type of benefit and transformation or vision. The project wouldn't be there as a temporary endeavor if it wasn't a transformation in its own right. Most projects are, to some degree, some type of transformation. Usually it's something, you know, if you take any type of, I work in infrastructure, Harris, so you know, take a new runway, or a new rail line, or a new road, right? These are completely new projects that will transform the way commuters travel, you know, if you take transport infrastructure. And I think that there's a lot of difficulty in understanding that roadmap. And so my next question, just before I hand it to Dale, because I know he's listening intently, is how do you prepare someone for transformation? So let's say we've gone past the definitions, we've decided with whoever the important people in the room are, and we said, we need a transformation. Here's the vision, Harris. How do we set about creating an effective transformation that is also successful?
This is as well a nice question, because initiation and pre-work for the transformation is really important. Because from my experience, when transformation is initiated at the corporate environment, not everybody will like them, because there are a lot of vested interests, for example, a lot of verticals in the organization. So a lot of work has to be done before a transformation program is announced, for example, by the board of directors, because some people may be shocked, okay, because I've seen in my career that people receive an email, the CEO makes an announcement that the company needs to do A, B, C, D, so we're going to run a transformation program, and they have a ceremony that all the people are gathered, they have some sweets and a bit of orange juice and things like that, and they get happy. And then it gets more and more complicated, because actually they don't know what will happen next. So in the beginning, in order to start a transformation, yes, you start with a vision and a mission statement, but it should be made very clear from the very beginning what is expected. And you shouldn't let people abandoned in the corner, not knowing what they should be doing. And this is where sponsorship comes. The sponsor should act as a role model, someone that will remove the roadblocks, will give a hand to his peers, to his people to make it run. And this is where it comes to other issues, like, for example, the skill set that is required for someone to run a transformation, but it's not someone, it's a whole team of people that is engaged. In such cases, this is where you need the transformation PMO, a central governance body, like a core function of an organization that will lead the transformation and will bring the result. What I do, to give an example for experience, before we start a transformation approach, I ask the board of directors or the people in command that they have power, why they want to do it, what is the different expectations. And when you discuss with the people, what you will see as well is that they have different opinions of what a transformation should be like. So it's nice to have different opinions from many different people, but out of such kind of different opinions, very few people decide of what will happen. So it's like a brainstorming approach that needs to be done before it is announced publicly or internally to the company to know what are the expectations, because some people, as we said before, maybe they will be shocked. Maybe they will not like be engaged in this kind of transformation. Maybe they don't work with PMO. They don't like Harris. They don't like how Harris is talking about. Who is that guy Harris that wants to put us in that journey? We don't want. We're okay in our offices. We exchange a few emails. We don't want to progress anymore. We're fine. We go home. And then same thing like a routine. So you gather the opinions and you try to give some advice to the people that have the authority of how it should be run. In some cases, what is helpful after it's been announced is to run a workshop so as to give voice to the people to say their opinion, how they feel about it, what are the expectations. And fulfilling the benefits and the expectations of the stakeholders is really hard, because there's going to come up so many different expectations and so many, I would say, opinions that probably it will not be handled effectively. And this is where the PMO comes to show the ground rules to the people how it should be run. Processes, tools, techniques, training is a very, very important, I would say, asset for the people, especially when we discuss about agile environments. Agile and agility is not something easy. It requires a lot of training. So overall, I would say that a lot of work should be done before the announcement, and it's a journey. It's like that we discussed before, the caterpillar is transformed to a butterfly. And this does not happen automatically in day one. It takes time. Likewise, in transformation, even the announcement or the preparation or execution will take time, and complexities will come up by default. So prepare well for good results is my advice to the people that are listening to us.
That's great advice, Harris. You know, pre-planning, planning for, you know, before you execute, communication, all those wonderful things you touched on, I think, you know, are hugely, hugely important at stakeholder management piece as well. And, you know, the old saying, you know, failing to plan is planning to fail. So, yeah, I think that resonates well with us on the call, at least. And I think a lot of the listeners too. But I do want to rewind slightly before we jump into, because we've baselined nicely what transformation is, but specifically we'll get into digital transformation, because I think a lot of the listeners will be keen to hear about what that actually means in terms of the project management and PMO space. But you did speak about how you regard what you do as a passion rather than a profession. Can you just succinctly tell us what's the difference?
I will tell you the difference, and you've touched a very nice topic. And before that, I would like to say that in principle, a digital transformation is a business transformation. This is a thing that most of the people mix and forget. Digital transformation is a subset of the whole transformation. Why? Because it's a combination between the leadership skills and the digital capacity skills. I've seen from my career a lot of people having exceptional digital skills in many different areas: IoT, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, cryptocurrencies, blockchain, you name it. But they lack the leadership skills. So transformation in the digital field will not be successful if there's not a balance between the digital and the leadership skills. In principle, digital transformation touches technology. And after the COVID crisis, I would say there are a lot of approaches, and digital transformation were accelerated, and more companies are requesting to step a foot in the digital transformation, because actually they want to utilize the technology, software, applications, knowledge of people in order to make their life easier, offer services and products that are quite innovative. So effectively, in my opinion, digital transformation differs a lot than a pure, I would say, corporate transformation. However, it cannot be avoided, because in most of the transformations that have taken part and have reached good results on them, included the digital part. Is a subset and cannot be avoided nowadays, especially with the COVID crisis.
That's great. You jumped straight into digital transformation there. And just on the passion versus profession, what's the difference?
Say again, please.
You mentioned earlier in your career that you regard what you do as a passion and rather than a profession. And I wanted to know, just in your words, what's the difference?
The difference between a passion and a profession is that, like, a passion, you can spend hours and hours, days and nights without getting tired, because it fulfills you as a person to achieve more and more and more and more. So you forget about the problems and you want to do more and more, not specifically for yourself, but for the people you work together. You want to share knowledge. You want to be part in higher challenges. You want to help the people. You want to broaden their horizons. You want to make them part of your vision. On the other hand, profession is getting more to like daily routine, that you work 8 hours and then you go back home. Sometimes you take the problems of your work back home and you discuss them with your relatives, and then the same thing, like a routine. But the passion is something much more wider, I would say. It's like a lifestyle that you enjoy to do, and you forget about the problems, and you like doing and doing. And I would say, for me, in the PM and PMO profession, no day is the same. I don't see such kind of things the same twice. So that's why if you work in such a way, I think you will accomplish more and more, because you spread the passion to your people. It's not something like that Harris told us to do. For example, for my team, Harris told us to do that, and we're bored, we don't want to do it, and we do the same things again and again. It's a different, I would say, approach. Like want your team members to be the same, like you share the capacity and capability. For example, you don't compete them, and it's not my style to compete the people. If someone from my team is better than me, and I have come across to people that are much better than me in specific areas, I try to learn. I try to approach them and discuss their ideas, be innovative, and work together. It's not my style to put people in the corner. And this is not advice to the people that are listening to us. If you come across to talented people that they speak differently, they behave differently, ask them how they do it. Try to learn. Don't try to copy them, but put your own style as well.
I love it. I love that this podcast is going all over the show. So it's great. And I guess what I take from it is that there's a lot more positive emotion involved when you know it's a passion. And possibly a litmus test, folks, is would you do some of the things you do as part of your job? Would you do it if you didn't get paid? Then you might know if it's a passion or not. Maybe that's a bit of a test. But let's jump back to digital. And I want to know, in your opinion, or maybe you know the definitions as well, the differences between digitalization and digitization. What is that? Because listeners often get confused between the two.
Yes, there's also a misconception, and people use the same word for the same thing. Digitalization is not the same thing, because actually bringing in the technology to deliver results is different than using already the technology to sort of offer greater services. In such kind of approaches, those things sometimes work both, but not at the same time. Let me give you a technical example, like the modem, like that nobody knows what it means. It's modulator, demodulator of the signal, right? It's something like that, that you use a device, you use a sort of a vehicle to be able to move into a more digital era and more results in the field. But it's not the same, I would say. Many people use it for the same, but purely it's not the same thing.
No, thanks for clearing that up, because like you, I've heard people use them interchangeably, and you go, okay, it's not quite the same thing in simple forms for me, and maybe I've got this wrong and you can correct me, but digitization is just taking the stuff you're doing and turning that into electronic form. People, digitalization is something different, and that's what we're trying to cut into on this specific episode. I love the fact that you spoke about transformation is sort of like a metamorphosis, and when you're talking through change versus transformation, the differences, I could hear some of our audience, the cynics in our audience, going, well, isn't that just semantics? Well, folks, you want to take away the labels against them. I think all it is saying that the difference between something large and complex with lots of moving parts that looks totally different and is unrecognizable to what it previously was, that is kind of transformation, but call it whatever you want. And something that is altering the state of what it is change. So in my simple terms, because I'm a simple person, Harris, so I like to simplify things. I hope I've got that right. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, transformation don't need to be complex and I would say big in scale. Okay? This is another misconception. You may have a transformation that may last a few months, but as we discussed before, it cannot be 1 day or 1 week, because people believe that transformative approaches will last years and years and years. Yes, it will last longer than people believe, but it depends on the output and the outcome, and in most of the cases correctly, as you did say, it's something new. We're going to a metamorphosis stage, like the caterpillar turns into a butterfly. In the initial stage, it's like a worm, doesn't have any wings or legs or eyes, but at the very end, what is going on? It flies. So it's a new total thing. It crawls on the ground, but out of the whole metamorphosis approach, it can fly. So it has new capacity, new capabilities. It's a new total thing. In the industry, to make our life easier and not to make people feel uncomfortable, we start with quick wins. Okay, something that is in smaller steps, something that is visible, so they can see the results easier and in small steps. Of course, nobody expects to have transformation results next day, but giving the results in chunks, I would say, that helps the people understand more and be part of it. Quick wins allows the people to get more and more engaged, increase the buy-in, and get used to the pace of working, of anticipated results.
No, absolutely. And I think you're right. It's like, was it Gary Player that kind of said, the more I practice, the luckier I get type thing. So as you say, you know, getting people used to it helps transformation projects because they are so complex. And we got to say a shout out to Eddie Obeng. Thank you for allowing us, I know you didn't give us permission, but allowing us to use your caterpillar and butterfly terminology. It's great. Val, I think we should potentially shift gears to the differences between PMO and project management now, because I would love to get stuck into that. What do you reckon, Val?
You know,
you're on mute, Val.
I do apologize. I had a full conversation in my own head. How's that? I was just going to add before we jump into PMO and PM, some interesting stats from Harvey Nash, KPMG CIO Survey 2020. They said, Harris, I don't know if you know this, 47% of CIOs say the pandemic has permanently accelerated digital transformation and the adoption of emergent technologies. That's a huge shift. We've never seen anything like that. Is that what you're experiencing as well in the real world?
Well, you've touched two interesting things. I would say differences between PMO and PM, not only as a role, but as a profession. And the number that you already discussed a while ago are true. Digital transformations were accelerated mainly due to the COVID crisis. And maybe you'll see that companies that are in the digital or in the technology sector, they've made millions and billions out of this crisis, and this is not by accident. So people that are working in such kind of companies, they should feel quite happy because more services, more products were released. So the crisis has actually is not just all black and white. So effectively, I've seen such kind of numbers. I came across such kind of numbers. There's a lot of bodies that, and also consulting companies that made a lot of, I would say, research on this field. And more or less, they show such kind of numbers, acceleration of digital technologies, digitalization as well, and skill set increase on such kind of technologies, more and more jobs on the field, more customers require PMOs to work on such kind of engagement in the digital part. Technologies that are included, for example, we named some before, like AI, IoT, cybersecurity, cryptocurrencies, which is part of blockchain, you name it. Now, going back to the difference between the PM and the PMO, of course, again, it's not the same thing. And now that you give me a pass to say a very important thing, I've seen many organizations, and this is wrong as well, also by the HR department, that when they recruit people in the PMO, they recruit project managers to do the work of the PMO. Well, this is a mistake in my opinion. It will not go well because it's a huge difference between the PM and the PMO. Of course, there are many different PMOs in the industry, and for example, maybe you've heard about agile PMO, value PMO, program level, project level, portfolio level, strategic management office, excellence office, many different, I would say, notations about what a PMO, with many different, I would say, fulfillments as well, achievement and expectations. In principle, the PMO as a role is much wider than the role of the project manager. It's not just following the golden rules of keeping well with the finances, keeping well with deliverables as well, with deadlines and so forth. For example, let me give you an example. A PMO is wider because in most of the cases, it includes the whole company, all the verticals of the company, HR, IT, operations, finance, you name it. So it has far more greater responsibility. In most of the cases, it sets the ground rules for the tools and the processes. This is not by accident. So effectively, the project manager or the program managers do follow such kind of ground rules. Training is another key aspect that's been asked by the PMO. So when you provide training, you don't provide it just to some specific project managers. You provide it to the whole company, and you should take into account, for example, what kind of training, who should receive it, what kind of level, and so forth. Another expectations for the PMO, if it gets higher level, for example, program or portfolio level, is relatively strategy. For example, you will see that PMO directors executive, they have a place when board meetings take place. On the same hand, rarely you will see project managers to participate in board of directors meetings. So this shows the capacity and how important the PMO is. But again, it depends on the company and the authority of the PMO. We're not discussing about controlling PMOs or supporting PMOs. We're discussing about program or even portfolio level PMOs or transformation PMOs we discussed before. PMO should act as a role model. This is another key important feature of the PMO that you take into account. Imagine that the PMO does not follow the rules, the regulations, does not reply on time, does not show transparency of what will happen. For the project manager, of course, you should have an advanced skill set if he or she wants to succeed. But for the PMO, it's even much more greater, because in such case of deployments, change management, you cannot avoid it. Risk management, company-wide, of course, you cannot avoid. Conflict management, escalation levels, deliverables that are more complex, systemic risks that we discussed a few minutes ago. It's not only mitigation of risks and just following the rules and the regulations for some, for example, that some frameworks discussed in the project level. The responsibility of the PMO manager is larger than the project manager, and in a sense that the PMO has a lot of project managers underneath that needs sort of to control, advise, consult, move forward in order to bring results. So it's a wider, I would say, role. It's not easy. Of course, most of us, they started with a project manager role and were lucky enough to move to the PMO world. So again, another advice I would give to the HR, to other people that want to build the PMO, if your PMO wants to succeed, it's better to start with someone that has done it before, that has strong, solid knowledge in the PMO field, and not rename, baptize the project manager as a PMO manager. Because I've seen it, as I discussed in my career a lot. The mentality of a project manager is different than the mentality of a PMO manager. They share a lot of similarities, as we discuss through our discussion right now, but it's not the same.
Yeah, thanks, Harris. I like to draw differences all the time. I do this with Dale. I do it with my wife as well. But sometimes I want to know. You just touched on it then about the similarities. I think there's a lot of strengths and complementary features that project managers and PMOs have in common. And I'm not sure I'm sold on project managers unable to perform the PMO role. Being a project manager myself and then moving into PMO, I think you did something similar. When you do hire for PMO people, you mentioned that it's best to have someone who's done it before. Why do you think that is? What specifically do you need from, if you're talking about establishing a PMO, why is that important? And what do you need in terms of skill sets if you're hiring?
In principle, it depends. For example, if we're talking about a technical PMO, let's say, for example, in the AI field or cybersecurity or even agile domain, it requires specific skill set. So if you hire someone that does not have the basic knowledge or has not done it before, it might make things harder. Of course, I've seen a lot of talented people that are charismatic and they can work almost in any environment, and they I have a lot of faith in younger people that they want to do and learn in the PM or the PMO field. Yes, PMOs are complex, but someone has to start out of something. So this is the easy way out to recruit PM people to do the work of the PMO. But if you got an experienced PMO director or an executive or a chief level PMO, it will make things much easier, because that kind of people, they have maybe 15 years, 20 years, 25 of experience. They started somehow their career being a project manager. I started my career being a project manager. I didn't know maybe 15 years ago what a PMO is and how it operates. So I had people to show me. I worked with them. I've made mistakes. I learned. So I did study a lot. I've made more and more certification. It's not, I would say, as a rule of thumb to follow such kind of an advice. But for technical PMOs, technical knowledge is mandatory, as I told you, because when you discuss about in an AI environment, people start to discussing about algorithms, right? and started discussing about machine learning algorithms, and there are a lot of developers and programmers, and they discussed two technical issues. It's hard for even for the project manager or the PMO manager to adapt to such kind of environment. Let me give you an example. If you work, because I worked as well in an aviation sector, an aviation PMO, this was a very, I would say, specific PMO. You should have a bit of knowledge in the aviation sector, and because they use a lot of terminology and a lot of difficult language. So if you cannot understand what they're talking about, it's really hard to bring the result. Of course, as I said, they're talented people that want to learn. They learn fast, and they can do their work effectively. So another suggestion is maybe a mix of people, like servant leader model. So there's someone who is expert in the field and trains his or her people to bring the result. This is, I would say, one course of action that's suggested, but building PMOs out of the blue with people not having more than the basic knowledge and technical capacity, from my experience, it will increase the probability of failure exponentially. Because I've seen it happening many, many times when people ask for advice of how they should do things in the technical field. Remember a while I told you there should be a balance between the leadership and the technical skills. Same for the PMO, also for the project manager. To give you another example, construction project manager, they have specific knowledge in the construction field. Rarely you will see a construction project manager to be working in another sector than construction. And this is not by accident, because construction has specific, I would say, walkthrough of how things are run. Like, for example, I have some friends and we have some fun about that. Very rarely construction projects finish on time. They're always delayed and delayed and delayed because a lot of complexity, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of things can happen. So out of this example we're discussing now, I think it's rather clear how things should be done. However, space and opportunity should be given to the younger generation, to younger people that want to learn and engage either in the PM or the PMO field.
Now, there's lots to unpack in there, Harris. Thank you for that. And, you know, you did mention agile, but I might just go to run real quick before Dale jumps in and hits you with a few more. You mentioned AI, and I presume you mean artificial intelligence. What do you take in terms of your understanding of AI in PMOs, and what does that mean to you?
AI is something that cannot be avoided in the PM or the PMO field, and I'm positive about that because I have seen it. And let me tell you why. Machines actually, they don't need to sleep, all right? They don't make mistakes if you program well. They don't need to eat. They don't complain. So effectively, AI is getting more and more in the PM and the PMO field, and because actually it can give a lot of, I would say, help out of that. Let me give you an example. In the PMIS field, maybe 10 years ago, we were discussing about PMIS software that was focusing on deliverables, scheduling, risks. Now we're talking about PMIS software that are AI enabled, that they can handle a lot of data. We're discussing about business intelligence, big data, and so forth. More complex PMIS. Same thing in the PMO. For example, if you engage AI in your PMO, you can reach to results much, much faster. It can give you what I have seen from my career. You can see solutions that were not present before. You can have efficiency in resources, not only financial resources, but in human resources. You can have a project plan much, much faster. You can have a view, a holistic view of what's going on faster, reporting, AI reporting much, much faster. It can show you things that might happen or might not happen. It has a lot of, I would say, data analysis in the risk domain or the change management domain. So effectively, it can make our life much, much easier. I'm not afraid of AI coming in the PMO, because a lot of people have heard opinions like maybe the modern PM will be a robot. It might be, like we see in the movies that we cope, or that humans and robots interact. Maybe you're going to have a colleague who is a robot, right? Who's purely a robot and has a human appearance, but it will be working with you. But this is the future. The market will calibrate and will normalize the effects out of the use of AI in the PMO field. But in my opinion, it's something that cannot be avoided. You should get prepared for AI applications or AI, I would say, products and services in the PM and the PMO domain. And if we understand that, the faster we can, then it will make our life easier. There are already a lot of software that claim and they have AI use in the PMO field. Actually, they're more intelligent. But another thing that comes to my mind that I'm discussing these things, they cannot be AI intelligence without human intelligence. So it starts with the human factor, irrespective if a robot will make decisions or not. It's how you program the robot, either in machine learning or deep learning or purely smaller AI applications.
Thanks, Harris. Yeah, just to clarify, I think with regards to AI, I mean, I'm living under a rock, and that could be the case, but I've never seen artificial intelligence on a project as such. And I think, from what you're saying, I think it's more around machine learning from a terminology perspective. The training algorithms to pick up anomalies to make our lives easier in projects is kind of where we're going. And I see that as more as a partnership, as it always has. Technology has always been an enabler of our, or an enhancer of human capability rather than an inhibitor. You take the iPhone or any kind of digital transformation in the last 10 years, 20 years, the internet, all of these new ones that you mentioned before as well are just making transactions faster. So the ability to communicate, the ability to see, and the ability to change course if we need to. I think these are good things. That trending, tracking, and tracing, if something can alert me to the fact that there's something wrong, a bit like the sci-fi movies, there's a panel, a button goes off, it's done some diagnostic and it says, hey, Val, there is something wrong here. It doesn't look normal. Check it out. That's what I want. That's what I see in the world, probably relatively soon, or if not now. The issue I have, and I will pass off to Dale if he's got some further comments. The issue I have is a lot of projects, and you talked about construction in particular, are nowhere near that. The reason that they're not near that is not because we don't have the technology and the capability. It's because we don't treat data as an asset. We treat data as wastage. We treat data as a byproduct of the actual product or the service or the project that we're delivering. And until we do that, and I think UK's done some massive strides in this space. I'm not sure about other countries, but maybe you can comment around creating data trusts and ensuring that we anonymize data so that we can reuse it and repack it and manage it after the project is completed. That's where we need to tap into, because a lot of the machine learning algorithms require vast amounts of data. And there's two types, there's deterministic and then there's probabilistic. And I think without really quality data, and we talked to Dave Snowden as well about biases, how do you kind of exclude them? We've talked about the application of natural language processing, reinforcement learning by learning by itself. I mean, we're getting there, but there are these inhibitors around data quality that I still think, even with machine learning, we are going to have challenges. Quality in, or shit in, shit out, they say. And I'm still kind of not convinced that we're there, but I'm positive like you, Harris, that we can get there, and hopefully Elon can come help us sort out some things in the project management world. But look, there are just some comments from my perspective. I really appreciate your point of view as well. Dale, you're in now. Go for it.
Thanks, Val. I love that you just slipped Elon in there so casually. He loves to slip Elon Musk in there. But no, I agree. I was just thinking when you're saying that, you're so right that, data is almost as you say, so it's almost like project delivery drives data. What if data drove project delivery? Right?
100%.
If you switch that around. Because as you say, we deliver projects and we go, oh, what's the data telling us? from delivery. It's such a fascinating space to be, and I do agree with you as well that these low value transactional tasks we mention all the time, machines, as you say, Harris, they don't sleep. They continue going when we sleep. And that's the beauty about them. You can come in the next day, and that thing that took you forever, and as you mentioned, blockchains, part of what machines can do better than us, solve these massive mathematical equations that we couldn't do. I think it's a hugely fascinating space. And as Val says, and you're saying, Harris, the technology is there. We should be harnessing it and using it and not be afraid of it, But I think you are right. There is a little bit of resistance to this, adopting and adapting. But yeah, it's an interesting space. Look, I want to make a little bit of time as well, because you did mention certifications, and you said you've got a lot of them yourself. And so you actually in a very good position to comment on this. And a big shout out to Donnie McNichol and the delivery experts, because the most recent question from Gary Lloyd, I think it was, and we'll get Gary on the podcast in the new year, was, with all the certifications that we've got around in the project management space, has it actually contributed to more successful delivery? Great question. What do you think, Harris?
Yes, it's a very nice question. In principle, certifications do help a lot, but will not make you a project manager or a PMO manager because you got certified. And from my experience and from our discussion, I understand you have a high level of expertise in the PM and PMO field. For us, we can understand in a few seconds, I would say, or minutes, if someone knows what he's talking about or she's talking about in the PM and the PMO field, even being certified. There's a trend, I would say, that people getting more and more and more certifications, not going to the university because this is much, much, much faster. What I say is most of the people is try to balance academic studies and certification. Certification shows your ability to perform something under specific circumstances, that you have a basic knowledge. But the project management certification will not make your project management. Let me give you an example that I test my people, and then we have fun about that. About WBS, World Breakdown Structure. Okay, how many people you believe they can make a WBS? Maybe you read it in books, but when you tell them to draw by hand, they don't know. PERT diagram, all right? Many people discuss about PERT diagrams, maybe this is 1990s, okay? It's old history. But when you show them a PERT diagram and tell them, okay, draw that by hand or show me what does it mean, they don't know. Maybe in certification, you should know you have a basic knowledge or an advanced knowledge based on the different certifications. Certifications do help a lot, and they show a level of competency, but they show what I said before, a level. They don't show if you can do the work effectively. They don't show your achievements in reality, how you turn words into actions. What do you do to bring the derailed deliverables back on track? How you handle conflict management with your peer or your fellow workers if something bad happens? How you appraise your people if you do something good? Maybe they do write some things in pages and pages and pages, but no one has become wise after reading books and books and books. This comes out of experience. Yes, certifications are a lot in the industry right now, and people should be careful of what kind of certification they choose. Not all of them are the same level. It does not mean if you got tons of certification that you're a super expert, that you're better than someone who does not have a certification, because someone might have 20 years or 30 years of experience in the project management world, has seen things happening, has created things, has seen achievement, has seen failures. And I have worked with people that did not have any certification in the project management field, and they did great. But what happened is that they wanted to do a certification to show their capacity. And this is what it shows. It's a paper that shows that you had an exam or not, because a lot of certification in TPM without exam, this is another thing. A lot of fake certification as well in the industry, you know about that. People getting certified without taking the exam. This is very, very serious, unethical issue that happened to me a month ago. People were contacted me in order to get certified in other fields, claiming that, for example, don't worry, you don't have to attend the exam, just pay the fee and we'll give the exam for you. No, don't do that. In principle, a certification shows a capacity for specific time. That's why most of high quality certification don't last forever. You need to recertify again and again to show this capacity again and again on the field, to do things for the profession that will enable you to continue being certified with that specific certification. That's why it's not forever. It's not like an academic degree that you got a bachelor in electronics or bachelor or in mechanics or whatever. Certification shows that you have passed through specific training, perhaps you have taken the exam and you know some things. How you turn the words into actions and how you pass this knowledge in the field is something different that the certification cannot guarantee.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for clarifying. And I agree with you. You know, my takeaway from that as well is that it's a combination of both, and it's the application of the knowledge that you've got that counts more than the actual piece of paper. But the piece of paper is important just to, I guess, demonstrate that you do know what you are talking about. But what's more important is, can you actually apply it? Now, I just want to have one more on certifications just before we end the podcast. Specifically for PMO, is there any good qualifications or certifications out there? Because we know they're good ones for risk, for cost, for planning or scheduling, for project management, but PMO specifically, is there anything good out there?
In the industry right now, there are a lot of different certifications, and actually in the last 5 years, there are a lot of certification bodies that did arise. So it will be unfair for the people that are listening to propose such to name the certification bodies. You can Google it to see which they are. However, from what I have seen, PMO certification, of course, touch benefits, they touch services, they touch KPIs, they do touch a lot of project management, they do touch deliverables, but in a wider space, as we discussed in the beginning of our discussion. There are certifications I will name. Okay, I will name. I'm not afraid to name some of them because
yes,
actually,
to
speak the truth, I'm always open to discussions and happy to share the knowledge. There are certifications from the Pmo Global Alliance, 2 levels, the consultant and the practitioner level. There are certifications from Axelos, right, P3O. There are certifications from AI PMO. There are certifications from consulting companies for Big 4 or other companies that they do offer. A lot of certifications in UK and in US as well. They share some similarities, but in my opinion, before you go into a PMO certification, check their curriculum, check what is required to get certified, see if it fits your mentality, if it fits your time, if it fits your finances, because I wouldn't say that they're expensive, but they do have a cost. Overall, a PMO certification will give you good knowledge. And overall certifications, if you like what you're doing and you have a mentality of an avid learner, will be beneficial. For my mentality is to take part in 1 or 2 certifications per year, just to enhance my knowledge in different fields, not only on the PM or the PMO field. It can be on change management, risk management, benefits, you name it. But a PMO certification is beneficial. Some of PMO certifications, they are too theoretical. Some other certifications, they are more practical. But again, they will not make you a superhero in the PMO field just because you got certified. What will make you a good professional is to apply the knowledge you got out of the certifications, the knowledge out of interacting with the team members, the knowledge from lessons learned. This is key important. Have a mentality of, for example, that failure will make me better. Achievements, of course, will make you even better because maybe you repeat the things how you've done it. But to recap, if you have the time and the ability, do take a PMO certifications, plenty available. Choose the one that fits your time, finances, and mentality. Go for it.
Great advice. And you forgot one more off the list. There's this free resource with so much knowledge on PMO and project management, everything for free directly to the experts. It's called Project Chatter Podcast.
Can't agree more. Can't agree more of what you said. Of course,
Good job.
Like to speak the truth. After I got the invitation by Val, I got engaged in listening to other podcasts because I was not used to that, because mostly I was participating in webinars. But what happened, at least I can say for myself, is that in an hour, you can listen to views you never thought about it. It changes the perspective instantly, and you hear advices from people that are experts in the field, and you can contact them after and say, Harris or George or Var or Dale, you discuss about that. Can you give me some more advice? How would you do that? What's your opinion on the PMOs? What's your opinion on the PM, on AI? So what you do, guys, is really exceptional. You do a really professional work. I really enjoy my time. You could speaking whole night discussing PM and PM. It's really endless, and well done.
Thanks, Harris. We often spend a lot of time, even before and after recordings, talking more and more about PMO projects, machine learning, everything under the sun. But look, we're ending close to the end of the pod. But I just wanted my 2 cents, if you like, on the certification program. My biggest observations, and this is something to go back out to the institutes, and I don't mind being unpopular, so I can have that position, is you need to be faster. You need to deliver faster. You need to be mobile. You need to be accessible, and you need to stop hiding behind paywalls. We need to give more for free. One of the things that's interesting to me is emergent technology is not covered very well. And so, for example, I use this example in a previous podcast. I said, I can take a data scientist, I can teach them the theoretical processes and the frameworks of understanding of PMO and project management faster than I can teach someone in project management, PMO, data science. So there's an element of a shift, I think, even maybe a paradigm shift in how, one, we hire for projects, because we said data is important to machine learning, and that's important to us. And two, certifications don't certify you in a lot of these areas. You have to go to companies like IBM, or you have to do a formal certification or something like Harvard Business, whatever you want to go to. So we need to make sure that PMI, and I think, PMBOK 7, I mean, they're starting to come out with a few areas. The other element as well is the OCM side, the business psychology side of things, the people side of things. We need to emphasize that more as well. Certification won't make you a better person. You need to understand how you interact with people. How do you negotiate? How do you manage politics? How do you persuade people? How do you organize people who don't work for you? These are skills that you need to learn. What you can learn on the job, but there's frameworks and patterns and linguistic strategies to get that done more effectively. And I think that's a gap as well. So for all those institutions out there, if you're looking to scrub up, get in touch with Dale and me. We'll help you out. No problems. Or go check out Harris, because I think we could all be on the same path. Hopefully you agree with that, Harris. Did you have any comments on that?
Well, I would say that you're not wrong or right, I would say, but I've thought of it many years ago. If this happens up to a level that you say, maybe you're going to have frameworks that are thousands and thousands of pages, so it will make no use. Have also in mind that certification bodies are companies that they wish to make profit out of it. All right. Mm-hmm. So what they do now, the market has shifted to micro credentials. So what is going on? If you want to get specific knowledge on a smaller area to broaden your horizons, you just take the micro credentials that are 10, 15 hours or 5 hours or something like that, and you get the badge and you get concrete knowledge faster on this specific area. Of course, it starts with basic PM or even PMO knowledge. They don't touch a lot change management or risk management, but they have other similar certifications that are dedicated to other areas, all the micro-credentials. And I believe that micro-credentials is the future, I would say, of certifications. They do that a lot in US and in universities like that you mentioned, like Harvard or other, or Columbia. So what you do in order to get the degree, you choose different modules. So for example, if you choose 8 modules or 10 modules, any you wish out of 30 choices, you get the master's degree. So this is like a replication of what they do in the certifications field right now. And most of the companies I've mentioned a while ago, they offer micro-credentials just to close the gap that you correctly said. And I agree with you. It's not like you're losing the knowledge, but knowledge is getting so extended, and there are so many certifications that you cannot do all. That's why I told you before that I do 1 or 2 certifications on a yearly basis to expand my knowledge. And I'm thinking of taking some micro-credentials. For example, there are micro-credentials on transformation right now. There are micro-credentials on digital technologies, digital transformation, if you want to expand in this field. There are certifications on conflict management, certifications on change management, certifications that discuss the politics in the project management world. But again, you cannot be certified in the whole broad area because PM, again, is broad.
Yeah, no, thanks, Harris. And I think I agree with you. Micro-credentials are a great way to brush up on specific areas for specialization, but also to take in some of those peripheral courses. You know, we talked about fusion skills on the podcast. It's not just about the technical. Again, you know, we want to see a correlation between those micro-credentials and better successful outcomes for projects. I'm not sure I see them yet, but thanks for your comments. I really appreciate them. Dale, over to you.
Thanks, Val. Yeah, just to comment on that. The other thing I think that's also an issue is that I don't know if the certifications, qualifications are keeping up with the rate of complexity that projects and transformation projects are actually in. And so that doesn't help either. But we'll leave that one there, perhaps another podcast. Harris, we are running out of time. So just quickly, we have a quick pop quiz called Fiverr. Just 5 quick fire questions. If you're ready, we'll give it a go. So
right.
Question number 1, early mornings or late nights?
Early morning.
Question 2, what are the 3 must-have behaviors you look for in successful project teams?
Transparency.
Just 1. You have 2 more if you want.
Professionalism.
Yeah.
And passion.
Oh, you got professionalism and passion in there. Fantastic. Question 3, what is the best book you've been gifted?
You know, I rarely speak about myself. I let other people say that, but I've been gifted to work next to talented people that helped me reach this level and having this discussion with you now.
Great. Sounds like a great book. Question 4, what is the biggest mistake you've made on a project?
Pleasing people. Pleasing all the people. It cannot be done.
It cannot be done. I totally agree with you. You can't please everyone all the time. And lastly, if you could choose to be stuck in a lift with one person, who would it be and why?
Very difficult question. I never came to such kind of... I would say from the Greek history, I would say Alexander the Great.
Nice, nice, nice. Going back to your roots there. Fantastic. Well, Harris, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your opinions and all of the information you've gathered today. I'm sure the listeners will find it hugely insightful. Before we let you go, do you have any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Guys, many thanks for the invitation. It was a great pleasure having the discussion with you and sharing many different ideas and approaches. My key message, I would say, closing is stay positive, giving back, ask for help if you don't know, fulfill your dreams. Nobody's perfect. Try to do what pleases you more. Failure is a part of the game. Never give up.
Brilliant. Some great nuggets in that. Val, final thoughts from you?
Great words, Harris, and thanks for being our punching bag on some of these really, really crucial and interesting emergent areas such as transformation and tech. Really appreciate your time, and thanks for being on the show, Harris.
Thank you as well.
So folks, that's all the time we have on the episode. If you like what you've heard, you can pay it forward by sharing a link to this episode on your social media. A massive thank you once again to Harris Apostolopolos. I hope I got that right as well. And thank you all for listening. Till next time, we say stay safe, be disruptive, and have fun doing it. From me and Val, it's bye for now.